Okay, thank you for this, not a last-minute invitation, but something like this. Yeah. So I'm going to talk about a long list of works which have been done by a number of students around the 90s in the University Paul Sabatier. There is a sequence of theses which are not very well known. I thought it was a good topic for the day. So I'm going to explain what is an exponential family to my sense, which is a very restricted one, which is different from the exponential family that you are used to, that I would call general exponential family. I will explain what is moving convex function, and I will explain how it leads to the classification of the exponential families, especially the one-dimensional one, which are easier to do, and the classification in RD, which is rather complex and extremely interesting and full of unsolved problems. For you, an exponential family is probably this not, to me, very elegant model. You are given a measure nu d omega. Maybe I can. No. Can you see something red? No, you don't. Okay, but there is a new d omega, which is a measure on an abstract space. And this is, you have also a function which maps omega, the abstract space. No, maybe it should be like this. Abstract space T of omega, it's sensing this abstract space to RD. And you have also a function A of theta valued in RD too, where theta is some parameter, plus B of omega, plus C of omega, nu d omega. Maybe I could suppress B omega, but usually you have something rather horrible in the books, and actually an exponential family is something much simpler than this, because there is a lot of useless things in such a model. Actually, to me, an exponential family is a beautiful object which is must be treated with the tools of harmonic analysis. Well, we had some harmonic analysis today with the lectures of the first lecture of the afternoon, but the things will be a bit different today. So what is a natural exponential family, which is the simplest one? You fix a positive measure on RD, and you assume to avoid trivialities. This is not concentrate on an affine subspace, not concentrate on a line, not concentrate on a plane, not concentrate on a point if this is a real line. And you assume that this measure is such that it has a Laplace transform, a reasonable one. If you consider the Laplace transform, which is displayed in the first box, the Laplace transform must exist on some set, convex set, which is big enough. I'm calling it d mu. Big enough means with a non-empty interior. Of course, this set d omega is d of mu is a convex set, and this is a consequence of Hölder inequality. This is a very nice exercise to your students to to show that Hölder inequality implies that, first of all, d of mu is convex, and the logarithm of the Laplace transform is also a convex function. Actually, k mu of omega, which is a log of L mu of omega, will be our main character. This is the most important object of the lecture today. So what is important is the fact that k mu is strictly convex. But if you have this measure mu, this is enough to create a useful statistical model. And what is this statistical model? This is a natural family. I'm going to call it F, or F mu, because this is completely determined by mu, and with the density, which is exponential theta x minus k mu, mu dx. Because of the very definition of k mu, of course, the integral of in the box, of course, you have something which is really a probability. The integral is a probability, and this is defined for any theta in theta mu. Theta mu was the interior of d mu. So we have really what is called a statistical model, because this is a set of probabilities. So remember that this measure can be concentrated on integers, or integers to the power d. This is a very this model is still useful even for this particular case of discrete probabilities. Sometimes people call for d equal to 1 call it power model because you are using ZD as a parameter instead of exponential theta n. So an important fact is the fact that the gradient of k mu, since this is strictly convex, the gradient is injective function, is one-to-one function. So the map from theta mu to something which is k prime mu, I'm going to call it m, is one-to-one. And actually, this is very easy to prove that if x has a distribution theta, governed by theta, expectation of x theta is k prime. So for this reason, the image of the gradient map is called MF, this is called the domain of the means of F. And I'm giving a name to the inverse map from MF to theta mu. I'm calling it psi mu. I'm sorry about the notation because psi is sometimes used in all the lectures that I heard this afternoon as what I'm calling k mu is very often called psi also in the literature. But here, psi is the inverse function, the reciprocal function of k prime. Okay. A very important object is a covariance matrix of F, of X. Suppose that X has a distribution governed by theta. The covariance is the Hessian matrix of K. So this is K second mu. And the variance function is actually the map from K mu to the positive definite matrices of order D, which is K second mu, estimate in psi mu of M, and you call it VF of M. And this is called the variance function. Remember, we can parameterize the exponential family by theta, but because of the one-to-one correspondence, we can also make a parameterization of the exponential family by M. And then instead of saying the variance of X is K second theta, I prefer to say this is VF of M. This is just a change of notation, but which is important for the future. you can compute it quite easily because this is simply, you take the derivative of psi mu, which is, comme psi mu was a vector, the derivative is a matrix, its inverse makes sense, and this inverse is exactly the variance function. Well, maybe I can skip the proof, but this is not very difficult to prove it. Since k second of psi mu is equal to m, then by derivation of m, you get k second of psi mu of m, psi prime of m, equal to identity, and you get back the star identity, which is at line 4. What is very important is the following fact. The knowledge of the variance function of the exponential family f gives the knowledge of f. This is a very striking fact. This is not very difficult to prove, but exactly like when you learn probability, you are fascinated by the fact that you move from a probability density or even a complicated measure to the characteristic function, to the Fourier transform. And you move from a measure to a function. Here we have something similar. We have something relatively complicated depending on the measure, on the whole family, and this whole family is completely described by just a function, or here for a function for d equal to 1, or a matrix of functions for arbitrary d. So the Gaussian case is too simple. In the classical case, the variance function is extremely simple. In the Gaussian case, this is just a constant. The knowledge of sigma, if you have a variance function which is a constant, then it must be Gaussian. This is very pleasant. The Poisson case in d dimension is simply a list of d random variables which are Poisson distributed. Then the variance function is just the diagonal of M1 Fd. What else? The Bernoulli case. The Bernoulli case in Rd. So you consider, well, I have no blackboard, so it's difficult to explain, but I consider the Bernoulli case as a random variable which is either concentrated on 0 on a vector space or E1, E2, Ed, where E1, E2, Ed is the canonical basis of Rd. So this is what I call the Bernoulli case. And this is an arbitrary distribution on this is called a Bernoulli distribution. This is an exponential family. And the variance function is just the diagonal of m minus m cross m. M cross m. I will show you what is m cross m later on, but this is just a matrix. The entries are mi, mj. So this is a way of denoting this. Okay. The Wishart distribution is a set of, here the domain of the mean is the set of semi-positive definite matrices, and the variance function is a linear operator on the set of symmetric matrices, because so this is a matrix of matrices. So I don't like to write matrices of matrices, so I prefer to write it as a map from symmetric function to symmetric matrices to itself. So you take the symmetric matrix S and you consider the new matrix MSM divided by P. This is a variance function for the Wishart distribution. People who have been hearing lectures today about symmetric cone will be familiar with this. So what is now we are going to have groups. changing affinities, changing a random variable x from Rd to an affine invertible transformation, Ax plus b, makes a little change of the variance function, but not very big. But you have to be careful about the box. So you have a random variable x, you create y equal to ax plus b, where a is a matrix, b is a vector, and so you create a new variance function, f1. And f1 is obtained by a vf, estimated in a minus 1 mb multiplied by a. Look at this thing, because we are going to see it again soon. Now, what is the Jorgensen set of powers? Jorgensen is a Danish statistician who spent a lot of time in Brazil, where I made lectures in Rio, mentioned by Frédéric Barbaresco at the beginning. And he has invented a very interesting concept. You take a measure, and you take the Laplace transform of this measure, and you take a power lambda of this Laplace transform. Is it the Laplace transform of something? If lambda is an integer, of course, yes. But if lambda is square root of 2, you don't know. But you consider the set of lambda such that L mu lambda is the Laplace transform of something, mu lambda, then you get a new measure, mu lambda. And its variance function is v f lambda, lambda v f1 m over lambda. If there is a little difference with affinity, because suppose that you multiply a random variable by x, you multiply random variable x by lambda, you would have a similar transformation, but instead of lambda in front of vf of 1, you would have lambda square. Donc, this is not the same kind of transformation. So the set of acceptable lambda is a semi-group, which is a Jorgensen set of mu. And if lambda mu is the whole semi-group 0 plus infinity, of course, the elements of the exponential family are infinitely divisible. Now, moving a convex function. Now, this is very sad because I have no blackboard. I have not been able to put in my computer the proper device. But the idea is the following. I'm going to make some acting. Suppose that you have a convex function. Yeah, you have a convex function. Now you move it. You have a new convex function. Take, for instance, a parabola. Y equal to x squared. Y equal to x squared. You move it like this. You imagine the parabola like this. What is the equation of the new parabola? This is the parabola with the axis, horizontal axis. What is the new equation? This is y equal to plus or minus square root of x. Minus square root of x is still convex. This is still an interesting convex function. Now you move from a Laplace transform. You take the cumulant transform k mu. For instance, for the normal distribution, the k mu is theta square divided by 2, n 0, 1. You move it, and you do get square root of minus 2 theta. What is that? this is a stable, this is still the the Laplace transform, the cumulant transform of an interesting distribution, which is a stable distribution of parameter a half. So this is a very important phenomenon that we are going to study in detail. This is what I explained on this. You take a convex function, you move it, and you get a new convex function. With some luck, you get, if you start from a cumulant transform, you still get a cumulant transform. Now, some details, so you have explanation. So I'm going to do more than moving. I'm going to make really a linear transformation, not an isometry, but something which is can be an arbitrary linear transformation. In the notes, I said this is an affine, but isomorphism is enough. So now you consider this matrix. Sorry. You consider this matrix. The square matrix A, B, C star, D. A is a D by D matrix. D by D matrix. B is a vector. C star is a line vector. And D is a number. And you make the transformation x1 equal to ax plus yb, y1 cx plus yd, and so on. And this is exactly the kind of transformation that you perform on the graph of K-mu. Okay. By this process, we have created with this transformation a new convex function. With some luck, there exists a positive measure, mu1, such that k mu1 is equal to this function, k1. So f plus g, associating an exponential family and associating g, you create a new exponential family. Well, for the future, I'm going to call G the group GL D plus 1R. And we shall say that F and F1 are in the same orbit. I'm talking about orbit. This is not quite correct to speak about orbit because when you have a set, you have a group operating on it, and every element of the group is giving an element of the orbit. Here, you can have gaps. We say F and F1 are in the same orbit, but maybe not all elements of the orbit in the sense of the geometrical sense would provide real exponential families. Something which is very important is the case where we are dealing with C equal to 0. If C is equal to 0, then the transformation is an affine transformation with respect to Rd plus 1. And, but this is the set of all these transformations such that C is equal to 0 is a subgroup. I'm going to call it G0. So G0 and G are the two groups that we are going to deal with. Yeah? So G0, the set of matrices such that C equal to 0, and G without this restriction. Of course, it must be invertible. Yeah? So G0 are simply action. The action of G0 are simply action of affine transformation of X plus power instead of Jorgensen transformation that I mentioned before. In the other hand, transformation with respect to G are much bigger transformation. So we are going to have two kinds of things. We have to have G0 orbits, which are very simple, and G orbits, which are something deep and complicated and not completely mastered. Now, homography. When you have this linear isomorphism, AB plus C star D, we define the homography of RD defined by the box. Yeah? Exactly in one dimension, this is something familiar, the function AX plus B divided by CX plus D. This is sometimes called Möbius transformation. When I was young, attending to the lycée, we were used to call it homography. But in D dimension, things are a bit more complicated. For instance, the differential of the homography is the formula which is displayed here on this is the gradient of the homography. Not the gradient, the differential. I should point out that if C equal to 0, when we have a homography, which is an affine transformation, this is a constant. Now, what is the link? What is the link with this transformation? So we have seen we have an exponential family. We transform it by G. This is very complicated. But can we read this transformation with the help of the variance function? Answer, yes. This is very simple because when you transform f by G into F1, look at this. V F1 is equal, you have a denominator, the one of the homography, Cm of x plus d. You have this linear transformation, h prime of g of m minus 1, Vf estimate in hg of m, and h prime g m of minus 1. And this is very similar to what we have seen for the affine transformation. When we transform x into y equal to ax plus b, we had a similar formula. And this is really an extension of it. Okay. Now, what is the simplest example? Well, this is the one I mentioned a few minutes before. Let us take d equal to 1. Vf of m is a constant, the normal distribution, and k mu of theta is theta square. And now you choose the rotation that I mentioned, making a big gesture in the plane, g equal to this, and you get k mu 1 equal to minus square root of 2 minus theta. And this is a stable distribution. Yeah. And what is the associated homography? This is what which the associated homography is very simple. This is 1 over m, and its derivative is this. And now you get the beautiful result: v f1 of m equal to, you apply the previous formula, and you get finally, after careful calculation, m cube. M cube. So we have an interesting phenomena. What is the distribution f1 generated by the stable distribution of parameter a half? This is the family of inverse Gaussian distribution, which is something very known, well known by probabilists, because this is a distribution of the stopping time of a Brownian motion for reaching a boundary. Now, instead of 1 over m, let us do for, I'm still sticking to d equal to 1, for 1 over n, instead of 1, I take a general homography, and you have Vf of 1 equals Cmd plus d in a cube, and Vf of Am plus b, Cm plus d instead. And what is important is the following fact. Suppose that Vf is a polynomial of degree less or equal to 3. then VF1 is what? Is still a polynomial with degree less or equal to 3. This is very interesting. So you stay inside this family of exponential family by the process of G orbits. Actually, how many polynomials of degree 3? You have 4 parameters. So, but how many how degree of freedom in G? You have 4 also. So this is not a surprise to see that if you apply this principle to variance functions which are cubic, you have splitting in a finite number of G orbits because the number of parameters is the same. Yeah. What are these G orbits? The G orbits, finally, I have been looking in a book by Arnold for classifying catastrophe, and you get this kind of result. So instead of playing with polynomials with degree 3, I replace polynomials of degree less or equal to 3 by homogeneous polynomials x of degree 3 also. So, but you have exactly 4 orbits. One is generated by x3, and this is the orbit containing the Gaussian distribution and the inverse Gaussian. You have a second orbit containing the Poisson and the gamma distribution, plus distribution with cubic that I cannot describe explicitly here because this would be a bit long. You have the orbit containing the binomial and or the negative binomial, and also another distribution which is cubic. And finally, distribution called hyperbolic, with generated by 1 plus m square, with also in a cubic version. Yeah. Now, let us come back to the G0 orbit. The G0 orbit are simpler. So the G0 orbit, we can stick to the orbits of variance function which are only not cubic but only quadratic. Only quadratic, and the 6 G orbits has been discovered. Well, maybe he is not the first to have discovered it, but he is really the man who has written a magnificent article. His name is Carl Morris. He has written a long paper in Annals of Statistics in 1982, making the classification of variance functions which are polynomials with degree 2. And he obtained the 6 families which are that you can see, the one, the Gaussian one, the binomial, the negative binomial, the Poisson, the gamma family, and the hyperbolic families. This is very elegant and beautiful, and very rich and interesting. Maybe I'm going to skip the other examples in 1 dimension, except maybe something funny. Consider the class of variance, the last one, the class of variance function am square plus bm plus c to the power 3 divided by 2. And this is exactly, if you draw the class, if you draw an element of the G orbit of this is simply half a circle. Half a circle is a convex function, and this is the Laplace transform of the cumulant transform of something. And and you apply this transformation by G0, you get part of ellipse, and this is only one orbit, which is very interesting. Well, I could describe the various elements of this orbit, but it's a long process. Now, exponential families in the same orbit, what do they have in common? Well, this is a problem not very well solved. But I'm going to solve it to give a partial answer in one dimension. This is for d equal to 1, you choose the rotation that we have seen, 0, -1, 1, 0, and you apply this not only to the normal distribution, but to an arbitrary measure on the real line. And you get the inverse k mu of 1 minus k mu of theta equal to theta. This proves that if f1 is a transform of f, then k mu 1 and k mu are reciprocal. And this provides in a probabilistic interpretation about the link between f and f1 in many cases. And since an homography is a composition of affine transformation on inverse, the interpretation can be extended to any element of G orbit. Now, what is this probabilistic interpretation for 1 over m? You take mu in infinitely divisible distribution. Of course, the interpretation exists in some cases. There are other cases where you don't have interpretation. If mu is infinitely divisible, such that the Levy measure does not charge, it's 0 plus infinity, and such that integral of minimum f d mu is 0 plus infinity, you consider the Levy process governed by xt, governed by this measure. This is left continuous. And then you consider the martingale m of t exponential of xt theta minus t x mu. And you take expectation of mt equal to 1, and since t is a stopping time, you get expectation of minus t of k theta is exponential minus theta. Therefore, the distribution of t is in f1. So the moral is the following. You have a Levy process which is associated to an exponential family, and you consider the stopping time created by this Levy process, and the stopping time is in the G orbit, in the G orbit of the Levy process. You have similar discrete probabilistic interpretation. Suppose that mu is infinitely divisible and concentrate on the integers, 1, 0, minus 1. The distribution of the stopping time is also in f1. And if mu is a distribution concentrated on 0, minus 1, you also can consider y1, yn, and the random walk xn equal to y1 plus yn. Then the distribution of the stopping time is also in f1. So there is something quite interesting in this process. And of course, if you know what is Zolotarev formula, this is related to this, but the theory is not in a satisfactory state yet. Now, I have, 10 minutes to pass to classification of exponential family in RD. I've been explaining things in R, but I can do the same thing in RD. Now, to keep the things simple, I have to explain what is a quadratic exponential family. Quadratic exponential family is a exponential family with a variance of the following. You have C, which is a matrix, B of M, which is a linear application of RD into the matrices. So B of M is a matrix, but the process linking M on B of M is linear. And similarly, AMM is a bilinear. So you can imagine that AM has a matrix where all the entries of this matrix are quadratic polynomials, homogeneous quadratic polynomials with respect to M1, MD. For instance, the Wishart distribution are quadratic. Well, the simple quadratic families are the ones such that AM is proportional to what I have called M tensorial M, which is simpler, showy name for this matrix M1, MI, MG. Yeah. We have seen that multinomial distribution is an exponential family with variance function diagonal of M minus 1 over n M tensor M. So this is another example of simple quadratic family. So I'm going to talk about my former student, Muriel Casalis, who is now maître de conférence at University of Sabatier. In 96, she has written an extraordinary paper in Annals of Statistics, which is that nobody has read, but I consider that this is an extraordinary paper. She has shown that the simple quadratic exponential families are splitted in 2D plus 4 kinds of G0 orbits. You remember when D equal to 1, it was the Morris classification in 6 families. So you replace D by, you replace 1 by an arbitrary D, you get a real generalization. And she has obtained the following result. The D plus 1, you have D plus 1 Poisson-Gaussian families. They are product of K Poisson distribution and D K minus 1 Gaussian. So with a variance function, which is a diagonal, which is mentioned here. And then you have D plus 1 negative binomial gamma, which is relatively complicated. I am describing them by their Laplace transform. And the variance function is much simpler than the variance function. That's the Laplace transform. This is M tensor M plus something linear. And there is 2 sporadic simple quadratic families, which are the multinomial one, which is already familiar, and the hyperbolic family, which is very strange with this Laplace transform, and a variance function which is M star M, diagonal of something linear. Okay, so and what is extraordinary in this is not only to isolate this object, but to prove that the only one, and this is a quite difficult paper to prove that they are the only one. I should mention this is a classification of what I have called the simple quadratic families. The one such that the quadratic part is M tensor N. And an open problem is to find the other one. For instance, the Wishart distribution is quadratic, but not a simple quadratic. So the classification is not done. My conjecture is this is the definite result should be a mixing of simple and Wishart distribution, but this is apparently a very difficult problem. So I have still 5 minutes to talk about the cubic one in RD. How do we define the cubic? Well, we are going to be reasonable, since we don't know how to make the classification of the general quadratic families. Of course, we cannot be too ambitious for making the classification of the cubic one. So let us decide that we call the simple cubic one, which are the G0, which are in the G orbit of the simple quadratic, exactly like in one dimension. And then you have extraordinary result by Aceri. Of course, we define the simple cubic families on an element of G orbit of a simple quadratic family. There are two G0 orbit, but G0 is a subgroup of G. Of course, when you have a G orbit, you can split it in a small G0 orbit, of course, but they are disjoint. But you can have two G0 orbit, two simple quadratic family in G0, which are in the same G orbit. So the major theorem of Aceri is to show that exactly D plus 3 such G orbit, and to describe each of them. You remember that for D equal to 1, this number was 4. So this is D plus 3 is a reasonable generalization. So this is the last slide. It's a description of the D plus 3 simple cubic G orbits. You have the G orbits containing the Gaussian laws, the G orbit containing the Poisson law, D minus 1 G orbit of the Gaussian Poisson law, which are something, the G orbit of the multinomial law, and the G orbit of the hyperbolic law. And I will stop my lecture on that point. Thank you for your attention.